Okay, back on.
Okay. Which implies that this activity is something that not just simply God is going to do for you, but you have to be involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
Now these should be pretty simple to deal with here, so we'll move through it pretty fast. Okay. So it's a preposition with what? It uses the data. What kind of data? Well, probably association. Along with, together with.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, see, very good. And then this should be pretty simple. It shouldn't be much. This is an adjective, right? Masculine dative plural. And it's what kind? Well, it's an attributive adjective. This goes pretty fast sometimes, right? Meaning, whatever I did, it disappeared. Adjective, masculine dative plural, attributive, that would work. All, that's what it means. And then this, how do we deal with this article? Let's have Mark deal with this article.
Masculine, plural, dative.
Particular?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would translate it.
Yeah,
I would put it
okay, but now when we come to this word right here, okay, what is it? No.
The adjective. Substantive adjective, yeah.
Okay, adjective, right? It's functioning as a substantive. And it's related to the preposition as far as its function. However, there's more to it than that. In your dictionary, it gives a technical meaning for this with an article. Right?
Right.
So what is that? What am I? Do you remember what that was?
The saints.
Yeah. Well, it becomes a technical term for the saints, so that's a translation. But for believers, that's what it is, or Christians. So if you can translate it saints, that's fine. But it does become a technical term there, okay? And that's part of its understanding. Now, here's an interesting term right here. Right? What is it, Robert?
What do you call it? It's what, but...
Translates, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what is what?
Anybody know what part of speech we're looking at?
Indefinite pronoun.
Not an indefinite because it's got an acute accent.
Yeah, I looked at that. I don't see anything here that makes it a question necessarily, so that, but by the accent that would require it to be interrogative.
So it's as a part of speech, it's an interrogative pronoun.
Yeah.
Okay? And it gets a parsing as well. What would parsing be? Go ahead.
Is it singular?
Well, read. You got to read. That's why we have to learn how to read this stuff, right? So that you want to be able to comprehend, along with all the saints, comprehend what? Right? So we're in a direct object. Which case it would be? Yeah, it would be neuter, accusative, singular.
Okay.
And then you have to check and make sure you got your diagram set up that way. We're supposed to do these times, right? So it's an accusative of a direct object. Okay. What else would we do with that?
Would you have to decide what thing it's referring to?
Well, yeah, and you kind of the antecedents. It wouldn't be an antecedent.
How it's functioning as almost a connected to what?
So really, you probably wouldn't do anything on the antecedent level for this one right here. Okay. But you would have to ask a different question. What question would you ask? Because you see, that's not what you expect as a clause or an object. Introduce an object clause. What you expect would be a relative pronoun. Right? That's what you would expect. So the question is a grammatical question that says, can an interrogative pronoun be used as a relative pronoun? And why is it being used as a relative pronoun? As an irrelative clause?
Is it okay to challenge the designation that it's interrogative?
Grammatically, you're not going to be able to get away with it. Not when you look at the dictionary or the grammar.
Just thinking that the accent marks aren't inspired.
The accent marks? No, I don't think. You can always, if they're not inspired, that's true. Okay? Yeah, in other words, the accent wouldn't have been on enunciator.
What would it do if we treated it like it's an indefinite?
How would you translate it?
You can translate it in order that you might be strengthened to comprehend something with all the saints, something to the total. That gives you that whole spirit of length, width, depth.
You don't know what that something is yet, do you? No. The best option at this point, instead of just trying to challenge it, is to try to figure out, go to the grammar and try to figure out, in fact, why can this thing be used as a relative? Your lexicon can help you with some of that. But let's look at the pronouns here. Interrogative pronouns. Okay, this is Robertson right here. And I've got tis, substantival, absence of gender, indeclinable T, predicated in alternative questions, double negative, as a relative. Oh, well, maybe there's something there. Okay. Just as Hauses can be used in our. So tis drifted occasionally into a mere relative. How the relative interrogative can be used in English, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Tis in classical Greek came to place hostis. Let's see. Famous examples. There's another aspect of this that he talks about. Let's see. Here's an idiom really that of indirect question, deliberative question. That is a direct question, indirect question. And he makes a statement somewhere in here that it sometimes is used because the author knows how to use the relative and how to use the interrogative, and sometimes you use the interrogative to function somewhat as a relative, but it forces another issue. Okay? What does it force the hearer to do? Because when you hear it, you're really hearing T, not Ha. Right? So what does it force the hearer to do? To take a statement which is written as a statement, as a indicative type of statement, but it forces him to turn it into a question. In other words, ask himself or herself the question. You see, after they hear that, well, what is the breadth and length and height of that? Somewhere in here he's got that. I don't know what this thing keeps doing. Somewhere in here he discusses that very thing. Here's one. An indirect question comes with a jolt and makes one wonder if also the relative use of tis does not occur. Isn't it kind of be an indirect question of sorts? And verbial use frequently sense of why. No, certainly that would be it. Okay, so the preposition, the articles, an explanation. Indirect questions, ancient idiom, indirect question. He refers our passage or not. Oh, rather, here you go. No, not that one. here's your question, whether or not we ought to have this or this. Just, the interrogative or the indefinite, you would say. Well, we won't get into that further. But the bottom line is, it's functioning as a relative sense. It can do that, right? But it has a rhetorical effect. Okay? When I mean rhetorical effect, I'm saying it has an effect to the ear that not necessarily we would know about unless we were reading the original text here, because the effect is it forces the person to think in terms of a question, even though he didn't state it as a question. Okay. Which then becomes pretty, we would translate it simply as what. Okay, but what it does then when we come to the rest of it is force us to try to deal with the breadth, the depth, the height of what. Right? And since it leaves that of what out, it reinforces the concept of a question in your mind. See? This can't be avoided. Okay? So let's we can quickly set aside this. How would we deal with this thought here, Mike?
It's an article, to singular neuter.
Neuter noun singular, right? And what is it doing? That's a syntactical question.
Let's try this.
Well, there are your options right here. Particularizing, wouldn't be that. Certainly not previous reference. Abstract wouldn't be that. Nothing. Dealing with a particular abstract noun. Dealing with something. Proper name is not that. Structural identifier, vocative, it's not. Subject, no. Grandiose art, no. Collective. What is a collective idea?
Yes, it's looking collective to me.
What it does is it takes four ideas and ties them into one concept. So we don't want to split them apart. That's the idea. So it'll be more of a collective idea function. Okay? That's what it will do. And so then for these four words here, we've got, what kind of word is it? Just lost me. What would you do with that one?
It's a noun. It's neuter. Is it? I actually know what the vocabulary is here. Yeah, neuter singular nominative.
Okay.
And
it would be
a predicate.
Predicate nominative. Even though the verb being is not there, you'd have to put it in, and you'd have to look at your diagram, make sure you got it associated properly. So this would be bread. Whatever you did with this, let's do this one too. This is just simply a conjunction. It's going to be a continuative conjunction, right? It's going to connect and it's going to be translated and. So whatever you did with pathos, you're going to do with makos and hoopsos and bathos. The ties are going to be all the same. Okay? And it shouldn't take any time to deal with that. Okay? The only thing what you have to deal with at this point is not so much that grammar there. That's going to be easy to take care of. But you have to ask the question in our context of this. Well, the breadth and length and height and depth of what? We've got measurements, right? What are the measurements? Measurements of what? That you can't avoid the question. Okay? Right? And there are different answers to that. Different answers to that question. What would one answer be?
Love.
Huh?
Love.
Love? That's one answer to the question. Okay. Would that be instantly recognizable in the context, you think? So that you didn't have to mention it?
No, because it's not necessarily introduced yet.
No, it's not. Love comes up later, and it was before. What other thing in the context? Is there anything in the context that has to do with a comprehension, a mental act issue here? Have we found anything in the preceding context that had to do with mental stuff? What?
That you'll be able to comprehend.
What? In other words, that's
Your
your
ability to comprehend, to mentally grasp.
It says to grasp with all the saints what is this thing that has measurement. So is there anything in the context that involves both measurements and intellectual activity?
So the wealth is glory.
I think that's the only thing that's there. There's a measurement issue with the abundance, right? And there is a cognitive, conceptual issue tied to the glory, if we interpret that, as I did anyway, as the concept of divine revelation, self-revelation, right? Okay. Most people tie this into what you said first. What? Love. Yeah, right. The concept of love. And it's interesting to see some of the translations of this. Which one was this? Oh, the New Revised Standard. The New Revised Standard. The power to comprehend all saints with the breadth and height and depth, and to know the love of Christ, which passes knowledge. What is this thing that keeps coming? Okay. They just left it open here. This translation just simply left it open. Question. Let's see what another translation is. This Revised Standard. They have the power to comprehend depth. They left it open. The Revised Standard. Okay. Just like the text. What is this? In that Bible? Comprehend all breadth and height and depth. The object of these is not stated. Well, they're honest enough to state that. Scripture suggests a variety of reference for the unstated object, including, notice what they include here. The cross of Christ, not even that,
Heavenly Jerusalem?
The heavenly Jerusalem, which is linked to the church, that's a stretch in my mind. God's power, the fullness of salvation given in Christ, but I don't see any so periodical dimensions perhaps there. The wisdom of God, the love of Christ. Of these interpretations, the last two are the most plausible. The wisdom of